YouTube. You know what it is. AJ coming in for another video. Man, as I was stating yesterday, we're going to get into this East St. Louis thing situation. I don't know really how to call this. It's crazy. I was doing my research. I was just trying to figure out who all was the mayors in East St. Louis. I didn't know really the situation. Like, okay, probably is St. Louis a part of St. Louis. Maybe it couldn't really, part of Illinois. Thinking to myself, they got to have their own mayors. Now, I'm not going to show that. Y'all got to go look that up yourself. And this what kind of led me to this video. Well, I'm about to play. I'm not going to play all of it. I'm going to drop the link in the description. You go check out the whole video. I just found the parts on there I need to play to make my point. But back to me researching, I couldn't really find anything. Just like if you type mayors of Chicago or like St. Louis, all the mayors come up. But for East St. Louis, no. It was one page, one website that gave where all the deceased mayors, like 1800. And then it was like this big gap. I couldn't find nothing until 2015. So I came to YouTube. Well, no, I went to images and I found this Alvin. They say his name on here. So I typed that out. I was like, let me go to YouTube to see what I could find. So I go to YouTube. So I typed his name in and it was like, yes, he was the mayor at this time for East St. Louis. And I was like, okay, well, that's almost like going 10 years back. So I was like, well, let me see what I can find towards with just the mayors of East St. Louis. And then this comes up. I see this video. And when I was looking for the mayors, I went to the website. I went everywhere. Couldn't really find nothing. And I was just like, it was giving me that corruption vibe. And sure enough, there is a video about corruption. It's East St. Louis. And this video right here is nuts. And it explains a lot. It makes it make sense. It does. And I just had a feeling. It was more than, okay, all of these black people had left. Or all these people had left, which they said because of the steel mill and the other companies that left, that played a big part. Okay, that played a big part. But still, there is East St. Louis is majority still black. I think it's just about 18,000 black people is still there. So, and I said this before, I didn't understand why. Like, why would all these black people would be living in squalor? This video, this news story made it all make sense. This was like supposedly 10 years ago. Now, before I play it, see, I want you to go look at the videos. It's plenty of videos of guys driving in East St. Louis showing the neighborhoods, the baddest neighborhood of the U.S. country. There's plenty of them driving recently through East St. Louis. And it's still like a fucking a hellhole. But this video explains to you why. It all made it make sense. All right. So I'm not going to play all of it. It's 40 minutes long. I'm gonna just start from here. I'm gonna be cutting it, off and making my talking points. But I'm not gonna play too much of this because I don't want this video to be that long. So let's start. Let's get it started.
More than $240,000 in cash and services from the poverty-stricken village. Ms. Mobley was convicted of tax evasion and served 2 years in prison.
I think corruption is a big problem.
How do you define corruption? What is corruption?
I guess I'm going to use your word that you said, crook. And I didn't like the sound of it, but it's true. I think that we as a people that goes into things like that,
I'll probably
we think that maybe we can get away with something. I never wanted to get away with anything. I mean, once they say you did this and you did that,
up until that point, you were getting away with it.
But I always felt bad.
You felt bad while you were getting away with it,
Yeah,
but you kept doing it.
I know.
So you couldn't have felt too badly.
I felt bad.
Well, she's the mayor of a smaller town that was next to East St. Louis, so this is why they talking to her. But she plays a part in this too. So, and she was a mayor for 20 years. Yeah, I just heard she did 2 years for fraud. So
Her story is a lesson of the poor bowing to temptation. Mobley says when she first became mayor, she was making only $600 a month. Then, because she had access to more money and power than she ever imagined, she essentially got the keys.
And this is not a black woman thing, Negro woman thing. This is black people with Negroes. These ain't blacks, Negroes. But I'm gonna take the gender out of it. So let's keep it that way. He talking about the women's again. Nah, bruh.
To her own kingdom, and she quickly abused the privilege. Because you were breaking the law, you were able to get a better quality of life.
But it was wrong.
It was wrong. No one would excuse it.
No.
But you were
And
able
I
to
would
buy.
want them to.
But you were able to buy nicer clothes.
Yeah.
You were able to buy a nicer car, right?
Right.
Probably nicer furniture. All those things because you were a crook.
That's what you said. You got to change that name.
But is that right?
You get the
She ain't
dictionary,
like that.
you're going to find another word for that.
But
Yeah, you're right.
but in fairness,
In fairness.
you were a crook.
Yeah.
And it's hard to accept that.
I don't like the terminology, but you were right. You're right.
Really?
Others followed her example and also paid the price. Early this year, federal agents raided the home of then Mayor Randy McCallum, who eventually pleaded guilty to stealing $1,000 from the village and attempting to deal crack cocaine. Just a few months
That's
after we
crazy.
confirmed Chief Baxton's 30-year-old felony.
Let me skip that because let's get to this mayor. I want to play him.
Later, Baxton pleaded guilty to theft and lying to federal agents. Do you feel like you made a bad
This
decision?
is the mayor of East St. Louis who I found.
No.
We interviewed East St. Louis Mayor Alvin Parks
Parks,
the day
okay.
after Baxton pleaded guilty.
Mayor, you have to know how this looks on the city of East St. Louis. You hire a chief who stays here for 7 weeks,
What do you
and
want
then
me
he
to do, Craig?
and then he pleads guilty to 2 felony counts for misconduct and theft, lying to federal agents, while he's the police chief of one community, and he lied to them while he was the police chief of your community.
Okay.
I mean,
Is your job to punish us now? Are you here to crucify us? We turned the page when Mike Baxton resigned yesterday. We hired a new chief. We are here to pray with.
No accountability, but I'm trying to let it play because I'm trying to, get to the shit that, going to make my point.
Work with and fortify that new chief of police and the East St. Louis Police Department.
why did you do it, chief?
But that culture is tough to change. On the day Baxton pleaded guilty, a uniformed police officer driving a marked East St. Louis police car picked him up and drove the former chief to his car. That driver, Officer Rudy McIntosh, had been an informant for federal prosecutors during a previous criminal investigation into corruption in East St. Louis city government.
Do you really think it was appropriate? Really?
That misplaced loyalty for the former chief happened on the first full day in office for Mike Flory, the new police chief.
No, that was not an appropriate thing to do.
During the last 2 months, state police and federal agents have joined East St. Louis Police on a series of initiatives that have helped solve old murder cases and crack down on violent crime. The efforts have been so successful that they're being expanded. When we come back, the high price of a beaten down housing market and its impact on the poor. Violation notice
Wait, hold on.
dated last the fire that threatens
We go,
that they're being expanded. When we
Yeah, because see, remind you, this was 10, probably 13 years ago. So I have to let you guys know that. Maybe when you go check out the video for yourself, you would see. But this was over 10 years ago. So I'm glad I was able to find this. I'm glad they did this because it make everything clear. You know, everybody will keep saying this white supremacy and white man did all this, knowing it was a race war back in I think when was that, the 1800s, the early 1900s. I think it was 200 black people had got killed, but prior, they say what, to the 1950s, it's mostly the whites left. We're in 2023. Like I said, there's videos of people riding around just a couple of months ago in East St. Louis, and it still look like this.
Come back. The high price of a beaten down housing market and its impact everywhere. The impact on residents is often devastating. Smoke fills the sky as another fire rages in East St. Louis.
Oh, let me put my fair use in my.
The fuel for the blaze is the dry, rotted wood of abandoned houses, the kindling of countless urban infernos. A dozen families live within a block of the fire that threatens to get out of control.
Are you trying to make contact?
As firefighters put out the flames, we hear the sirens of police racing to an
Make sure you
unrelated
support
emergency.
Cash out, $, AJCN reality with a 3.
During the last few years alone, hundreds of vacant houses have burned in East St. Louis, and many of them still stand as charred shells, waiting to be torched again.
2010,
The
2013,
Tanner
guys.
family lives next to this mess.
Look at this.
They bought their home 30 years ago and take good care of it, but most of the block is abandoned, and 2 of the vacant houses right next to them caught on fire this summer. The fire also damaged the Tanner's home.
When people come from out of town, you know, and they always ask that same question, what is this over here? It's vacant houses. I said we can't seem to get anything done.
See, and who fault is that? They can't get anything done. You see, it's a for sale sign up there. There's blocks and blocks of neighborhoods with these that burned down homes in East St. Louis, and they go get to it. They're gonna get to it. Well, who fault is that? I'm not blaming the people now. I'm not. Now they do play a part, but I'm taking them off the table right now. Now, who fault is that?
This one has a code violation notice on it, dated last September. The owner had 10 days to repair the violations or supposedly feel the wrath of East St. Louis city officials. But that was a year ago.
Clearly, they didn't fix any of it. So what does that tell you?
That nobody follows through on anything around here. I'm not surprised.
East St. Louis Regulatory Affairs Director Robert Betts
She's not
says
surprised.
the city is overwhelmed with the problem. He says the city has suspended demolitions. Betts says budget cuts have gutted his office, which now depends on volunteers to do some of the government work.
It's almost to the point where it makes you
Governance.
cry sometimes. It's kind of degrading.
What was this neighborhood like when you moved in 33 years ago?
This was one of the nicest neighborhoods you could move in.
Columbus Liddell raised a family on the opposite side of the city. Now he has a half dozen vacant homes on his block alone.
It's hard to swallow. It's hard to swallow because I know I'm not the only one pay tax in East St. Louis. And at least East St. Louis could show us what they're doing with some of the money.
The city has put little effort
You see what they're doing with the money. Now you see where I'm going with this?
into going after the people responsible for these properties.
The city just hired a collection agency.
That's correct.
Why didn't the city hire a collection agency years ago?
Where we have had collection agencies in other areas. We sought it another way. And then we said,
10 years
let's
ago.
stop doing it the way we've been doing it.
Is that because it wasn't effective?
It wasn't as effective as we needed to be.
Ciron and Associates has been one of the biggest property owners of rundown housing in East St. Louis for more than 50 years. The
Wow.
family-owned slum real estate empire owns about 500 houses and vacant lots. Many of them look abandoned. But a News 4 investigation found that within the last year, the city of East St. Louis had only cited 13 of their properties for code violations.
Did you hear that? They only cited 13 of their properties for code violations. You see these houses. Yeah, I see these houses, right? And this company got over 500 properties. y'all want more? Okay, give you more.
I was desperate because I didn't have anywhere to live.
Mahogany Burns bought this house from one of the Ceron's companies. She wasn't required to have
Oh, and let me add, you see who the mayor is. Go look it up for yourself. Who the city council is, mostly who's in City Hall there in East St. Louis. I don't think they're white.
any credit, only a relatively small amount of cash up front. She bought it for nearly $30,000, about 6 times what the Ceron's company paid for it.
What's it been like doing business with Mr. Ceron?
Wow, 6 times.
It's been like hell.
The kitchen needs major repairs. A bedroom is missing a large part of the ceiling, and the roof appears rotted.
It looked like it's wet. It looked like it's gonna fall in.
The basement smells of old sewage and mold. The sheetrock is coated with what appears to
That's
be mold,
dangerous.
and exposure to
That
it
is dangerous.
could create health problems for her.
That's why I keep the door shut and I don't come down here.
Ms. Burns pays $400 a month.
But the water heater is down there. I'm taking her, listen, taking the people off the table. I'm not saying it's their fault. I don't want to do that. Maybe we could do another video. We could dive into that, but it's just, really just look into the conditions, like with that house, because she doesn't own the house. I think she's leasing the house. But I'm just saying, I don't, I be hearing a lot of arguments prior, with some of these places, because with this white people, it's races and white supremacy, probably they was in the the city council. They played a big part in this. Now, granted, the people who own these houses, they're white. They're gonna get to that.
Plus the property taxes, utilities, and is responsible for all repairs. The 1-year agreement has a final payment of $25,935, and it's due in 7 months.
Do you think you'll ever pay off this house?
No.
That's crazy. What
They
type
know I
of,
won't.
wow.
Mm-mm.
It's not a loan. So
That must be hard.
so she went through their company, whoever they, bank with, or the loan office. But on top of the sheet of paper, they say this is not it's not a loan, it's a bill. But what type of contracts are they see? They give them these effed up contracts. This is nuts.
It is. Because, they prey on low income people. They think they're getting a deal.
Over the last 4 years, we've interviewed other people who misunderstood their contracts with Ceron and Associates and realized too late that they got a lousy deal.
Wow.
The impact of that news was often heartbreaking.
I don't think there's any other way to put it except that it's predatory.
Brendan Roediger, an attorney at the St. Louis University Legal Clinic, is suing more than a dozen companies based out of the offices of Ceron and Associates
A dozen.
for repeatedly violating housing ordinances.
So it's more
What
than
we're
one
asking
company.
for
See, they got
is
their own
injunctive
loan
relief
company.
requiring that he actually get these properties up to code, and obviously damages for our clients who have had to live in houses that, quite frankly, you or I would never live in.
The county assessor has appraised Ms. Burns' house for $61,000. That's 12 times more
So it
than
was
what
in
Ceron
09.
paid for it. Since Ms. Burns
So this was 09. So this is 14 years ago. Okay, it just came on YouTube 10 years ago. So okay, 09. All right, 61,000. Okay, I didn't see that. I wasn't paying attention to this part.
pays the property taxes, the seemingly unfair appraisal costs her even more money. Any improvements she makes to the home will also benefit the Cerons, since it's unlikely she'll come up with the cash needed to pay off the loan, and the Cerons will remain the owners. Ms. Burns works 6 days a week just to come up with the money needed to pay for this house.
What is it like to work that hard for something and then find out that it's not what you thought that it was?
It's really hard. You know, it's disappointing because he prey on the low income. You know, I mean, you know, you can go get his list of houses. You're not gonna find anything in Belleville. You're not gonna find anything in Collinsville. Uh, you're not gonna find anything in Granite City. Everything is gonna be right here in East St. Louis or Washington Park.
If you're not embarrassed by the way that you're
Well, it's a reason for that. But once again, I'm taking them off the I'm trying my hardest. You know, I get it, you know, cheap property, and you know, hey, you thought you got a deal, but
operating these properties down here, why don't you just come out and talk with us about it? Over the summer, we made repeated attempts to interview company founder Ed Ceron and his son John, but they refused.
Need to talk to my son.
Actually, we need to talk to you. 4 years ago, we caught up with Ed at a charity golf tournament. Can you talk to us about how you conduct business?
Very effectively.
You got to know that these folks aren't going to pay
fucking
that off.
millionaires.
Okay.
Seriously, don't you know?
Okay.
You know
They
that.
know they millionaires.
Okay. Yes.
They are the housing market, and they've driven the rest of the market into the ground. I think it's, at this point, it's hard to imagine a way out of what Ceron
2009
has created.
The Cerons cornered much of the East St. Louis area market by supporting key politicians like longtime Allerton Mayor Callie Mobley.
Mr. Ceron is my friend.
You hear this, right?
He's a nice man.
Mobley admits she never cited any of the Cerons' properties for code violations during her nearly 20 years in office, despite getting many complaints. The former mayor.
Y'all hear that, right? That's see, let's be real. Detroit, same problem. North side of St. Louis, same problem. We can keep going. Chicago, Inglewood, K-Town. Come on now. But you know, I could at least give people that. St. Louis, you know, that mayor that did that long term, he was white. We had multiple white mayors. Who else? I have to look into Detroit. I think Detroit mostly been black mayors. But still, we East St. Louis. I knew something was up. I just knew something was up. People just like, oh, it's just decaying. People are just leaving. No, I knew it was more to it. I knew it was corruption. They did this shit. They let this company come in and just made the shit even worse. I mean, worse.
Notorious slumlord in her own right, had a strong incentive to take it easy on the Cerons. According to records filed 7 years ago in the Mobley's bankruptcy case, they owed Ceron and Associates $217,000 for property they purchased from the land baron. Most of the Mobley's net income was used to pay off that debt. Has that been good for the area? That it's so much under his control?
I think it's been, you know, when you look at a small area like this, I think it's been good for it because there's people that, like I said, could not afford to go to the bank.
They couldn't afford it anyway. You ripped them off.
Maybe other real estates and say, well, look, I got $500. I want to put it down on it. They don't have the credit, and you know what I'm saying. And I just want to be fair.
To use her words, to be fair, it's impossible to understand the deeper impact of the Ceron influence unless you examine the role of vacant house fires in the East St. Louis area.
Exactly.
A decade ago,
this
the
when we
Illinois
really
Fair
get to
Plan,
it.
The insurance group for Illinois residents who can't qualify for any other insurance, stopped insuring houses in the East St. Louis area owned by the Cerons because they had so many fires, and the insurance group's payouts to the Cerons were so high. That means residents who live in Ceron homes can't get fire insurance either. Apparently.
So why you think you see so many burned down homes? That's why I would say, go look at the videos. Go look at them now. Them homes are still there. The homes that burned down, that video, I mean, my thumbnail, that's recent. Them homes are still there, just like Detroit, just like North fucking St. Louis. These homes that got burnt down are still there. But as you see, these slumlords, was doing that shit on purpose because they was getting the insurance behind that. But then my question would be, okay, now the insurance own that, whoever, the bank or whoever, and they've been standing there because this has been over 14 years old. Why don't the city now own it? Why don't the city now do something to tear it down and build something? This company, they already got their money, but the properties that burned up are still there.
You did admit that your properties have an unusually high number of fires.
Numbers speak for themselves. Do we have a lot of losses? Certainly. Do we evict people that don't pay? Yes, sir. Do some of them have fires that just happened? Yes,
See this
sir.
dude?
Now,
Just
do we
happened.
go out and put the finger on anyone? No, sir.
If you weren't living here,
I'd be homeless.
you would be homeless.
Yes.
This is your last stop.
Yes.
Following our recent stories about slumlords and speculators,
I kind of disagree with,
prosecutors ordered
because I feel like some people that I know, people that living off the grid, are more in a safe environment, safe home than what you in. So I mean, technically, you are homeless. That's squalor. But see, I don't want to go there. Not on this one. This is crazy.
ordered 24 landowners, including the Cirons, to fix up their property. If they refuse, prosecutors are prepared to pursue possible criminal charges against them. When we
09, this is 2023. Go look up a story that they prosecuted them. Go look it up. I couldn't find nothing. And mostly the mayors of East St. Louis that came after him were black women. And there was there's a black guy now that's in office. And I think he got taken down, the Alvin guy, Parker, because of I think he was selling off a liquor license. The FBI ended up getting involved with him. So, but yeah, what happened? What happened to that? Go look it up for yourself. But I'm gonna play this little part here because this is going to explain a lot too. And then we go be done. This white supremacy and all this other shit towards with these tore down towns and cities and shit, and people will be pointing the fingers, white supremacy. No, a lot of these places got to do with fucking black people that were politicians that was in the city hall.
we come back, strip clubs and much more. The impact of a local economy driven by vice. The multi-million-dollar operation is part of the biggest industry in Washington Park, a poor village just north of East St. Louis.
Crazy.
There are 10 strip clubs here, one for every 500 residents.
The community has embraced us, and specifically the leaders of this community.
A decade ago, then Washington Park Mayor Sherman Sorrell and his wife joined Hustler founder Larry Flint for a ribbon cutting ceremony to mark the club's grand opening. 2 months before that ribbon cutting, campaign finance records show the mayor received political contributions of $7,000 from the club that changed its name to Hustler. It was by far his largest campaign contributions. Sorrell declined to be interviewed for this program.
Why would we want to be anywhere else?
Inside Hustler, virtually all the employees and customers are white. There's plenty of money, and no one feels neglected. Outside the club, nearly all of the residents are black, many of them are poor, and the village looks largely abandoned. Since the Hustler ribbon cutting, Washington Park has filed for bankruptcy.
Wow.
twice.
Make it make sense.
Gambling, strip clubs, and convenient marts and other businesses selling booze seem to drive much of the economy in the East St. Louis area. Some nightclubs stay open until 6 a.m.
Yeah, they can party though, huh?
Those are the people that are willing to come here to invest.
Vicki Forby is the executive director of Emerson Park Development, an East St. Louis nonprofit that runs a job training program, a charter school, and has partnered on the development of hundreds of housing units.
Investors are always looking for a return on their investment, and rightly so. And I think that they are afraid to make the investment and take the risk here.
Emerson Park's biggest project was Parsons Place, a partnership with developer McCormick Barron Salazar. Built a decade ago next to the light rail line, Parsons Place now has nearly 400 apartments and a dozen homes. Despite being in a community decimated by poverty, corruption, and violence, Parsons Place inspired a second successful development next to it.
Is there?
So what's the problem? What's the problem, East St. Louis? What's the problem? Okay, it's doing well as you see. Looks nice. I didn't hear nothing about it. Not recently. Was looking at the videos of them driving around. I don't even. Yeah, the guy did drive through there. The one of them. He was like, it is somewhat nice parts in East St. Louis. Come on now, explain this. But no, it's the white people, right? Show like a white woman that played a part in this. Come on now, man.
A lot of violence, yes. Do I focus on that? No. Do I focus on the corruption? No. Do I focus on the negative? No. If I did all of those things, I'd be like those investors and I'd leave.
There are serious
That's what
investors
happened.
in East St. Louis, but many of them aren't serious about developing their property.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't want this to be that long.
Found that much of the vacant land and housing is owned by speculators who don't live in East St. Louis. One by one.
It's a lot. That's like Inglewood in Chicago. I told you they buy the properties. I think K-Town too. They buy and they hold on to it. They just wait. Once whoever gets too violent, people start leaving or whatever, or people end up selling their homes, or however it goes, or they can't pay the taxes, and they just other people already got the property, and soon as it's starting to become vacant, bam, here they come in, they build them up, and there you go. And it don't be us, but they be like gentrification. Nah, man, we do it to ourselves. And then you see who's in power, who's not helping either. They actually making it. They making this happen. Come on now.
Some of the worst looking real estate in St. Clair County
It's only money.
is sold to the highest bidder.
Some of them are
This auction features property taken from previous owners who didn't pay their taxes. 5 years ago, we watched as two guys from the Chicago area bought land in East St. Louis at a faster rate than anyone could remember. Now the three companies based out of this small home in Skokie, Illinois, own nearly
North side
800 pieces of property,
Chicago.
hundreds
Wow.
more than the next largest private landowner.
The area looks pretty good right now.
AJ Baba, who refused to name his investors during our interview 5 years ago, was the only publicly identified company official. He admitted that he planned to do nothing with the property.
You know what the problem with a lot of the stuff that goes on? Sometimes you build
And
something.
he's lying.
You got to wait for some positive aspect.
Speculators
Right.
have also tied up much of the property on the underdeveloped East St. Louis riverfront, possibly the most prized land in the
And
Metro East.
Look at that. That's empty too. That would really have me scratching my head. Like City Hall is doing this on purpose. Look, you got the trains, you got the water. Why couldn't there be another company that could come in? That's a lot of money right there. Transportation alone. It's empty. It's abandoned.
City leaders have often talked about ambitious plans for this area. Those plans often failed, partly because there was never a unanimous agreement on how to develop it.
Sometimes it's
And that's the empty right here. I think that's the empty steel mill. Because I hear that it's still there. Because one guy he drove through. It was like 3 years ago. So I don't know. I didn't look at the recent guys. They was just driving through the neighborhood. But from that video a couple years ago, it was still there. This is crazy.
feels like it's a fight to make things happen.
In other words, East St. Louis is often its own worst enemy. And it's been like that for a very long time. Nearly a century ago, the city was the scene of the worst race riot in American history.
I'm gonna leave it there. Y'all could go check out the rest of the video. I don't want to try to make this too long, but also I'm gonna throw this in as what he said, but you go into the history. I'm not trying to make this video that long. I don't want to really cut into it, but he also said because of the these companies, these food marts and all of that, these politicians got millions. They gave them millions of dollars because of them giving them, bogus contracts to be able to build, or they gave them the property cheap for them to build, and they make their money, but they don't help. They don't do nothing else towards the other property that's there. Like you see right there, they could actually have a couple of businesses right there. But what they saying is they give them other businesses a hard time that could really come in and help them, but they say they give them a hard time. Go listen to it. Go listen to it for yourself. Well, my thing, once again, who fault is this? Because the last 10, 15 years, it's been black politicians up in there in East St. Louis. Majority black people, period, in the city hall. And it's still a fucking wasteland. There's no excuses. But like he say East St. Louis is his own worst enemy. No, let's be real. Them black people are. Them Negroes. The Negroes are their own worst enemies. Like I've been saying. Let's keep it real. Now, I do hope something happened. That's why I had to talk about this. I'm gonna talk about Gary, Indiana. You're next. We're going there next. I seen that shit, but they're building in over there. But a guy just did it recently, and he does it better because he gives the stats with it too. So I have to go look up the stats, see who all majority, the demographics, who what nationality is there, who all left, this and that. To kind of get understanding, because I didn't know it's 97% blacks in East St. Louis. And I'm like, you got it. And then you go look at the city hall, the majority blacks. Now I'm just saying that, Negroes, whatever. This is no excuses, man. You gotta have plenty of businesses there. Okay. Anyway, I had to do this. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna go back to the elections here in Chicago because there's only a week left. So we're going to dive back into that. And then go take a trip over there to Gary, Indiana. Y'all see the Cash App. Once again, $ AJC in reality with a 3. That's a 3 in the reality. Not an E, it's a 3. Let me know. Leave a comment. Share it. Let me know what you think. Like I said, we got to stop using these excuses. So start, put that mirror up. Put that mirror up. I'm putting that mirror up to you, East St. Louis City Hall. This is horrible. This is horrible. But I want the shit to change. It should change. Okay, we can do better. We are gonna do better. All right, y'all. Let me get on out of here. This has been long enough. Next time, peace.